Jack Place representing Nando's, not just in Africa, but Middle East and South Asia. Welcome to what we call marketing wars here on the Ashraf Garda show. Good chatting to you. It's a bit of a war, isn't it, to try and get market share in a very now hostile territory. Tell me about that very quickly. First of all, about how Nando's, let's say in South Africa specifically, has responded to restrictions, and how you want to still keep your brand alive and do business.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, thanks so much for having me, and I'm so glad that you're back talking marketing. I hope I hope you keep doing it. It's a valuable and important service to the marketing community, and indeed the South African public community as well. Yeah, so lockdown has been an interesting thing to see. I have line of sight to about 13 different Nando's countries around the world, and South Africa was by far the most onerous lockdown. It happened the quickest, and it was the most severe. In most of the other parts of Nando's world, they could still trade things like delivery. They could still have very small parts of the business to keep open. Whereas under lockdown level 5 and level 4. There was very little we could actually do. But we're a brand beyond just our service, which is the world's best flame grilled peri peri chicken. And when we announced the lockdown, we had an overwhelming public request to listen, please keep talking to us. Be with us during this time. So even though we couldn't operate as a business, we made a decision, and it wasn't a hard decision to make by any means, to continue talking to and with South Africans, and that's something we've done as a brand for 30 odd years. So we did a couple of things which were quite interesting. We introduced, we called it a COVID dictionary, but we couldn't call it that because you get restrictions on social media with anything COVID. So we called it lockdown lingo instead. Which was basically us participating with a broader conversation which many South Africans were having at various degrees of the lockdown around how they respond to presidential updates, or the neighbor that rats on the other neighbor because they walking their dog outside of a curfew, and so we had a whole heap of fun basically doing what we've always done, which is playing back to South Africans what we see South Africans doing on a daily basis.
Okay.
So, and there was a really good response to that.
Well, I want to run through some of the things you've done in the response, but you sort of partially answered the first point, which was why would you want to push your brand out in that first few weeks of April when you and I know there was absolutely nothing going on? So you're suggesting that the people, was it the people where they were calling you? Did you do market research on it? How did you know that enough people wanted Nando's to continue talking so that you continue talking?
Well, what happened was we made a little video, actually, just mostly for our Nandockers, our staff, which was to mark the occasion for the first time since 1987 that our grills went cold. And this video then spilled externally. It found its way to WhatsApp groups. It found its way to LinkedIn. Public disappointment was, listen, lockdown's already really hard. Now we have to deal with lockdown without Nando's. That's even worse. And so we saw a lot of commentary in around that particular piece of communication that said, listen, we know you can't serve us. The grills are cold, but don't you go away. And so it was us, I suppose, responding to that in the moment. I mean, we've said this before when we've chatted. We spend more time listening than we do talking. And I think, all marketing people should do that. And you can see in a number of spaces that we didn't want to look back on this time and people say, well, where were you in our darkest moment? And we can say, we were laughing with the things you were laughing about. We were sad about the things that you were sad about. And we want to help in material ways because we're a proud South African brand. We love Mzansi, and we want, the suffering that's associated with this particular, virus and condition to be minimized in so much as we possibly can do so. So, a simple thing like lockdown lingo was the first of many things we got up to.
If I get it right, the first one of your lockdown lingo was Rama punctual, right?
Exactly.
How tell me so you have Nando's and you have your agency. Who's the agency you worked with, and how did you decide? Because you're actually playing with the president, actually. Yes, he has been late for a couple of those early meetings, and that's changed somewhat. Give me an insight into the conversations you had before you said yes, okay to go.
On that one in particular, it's not the first time we've spoken about presidents in ads. And, we're a big fan of Cyril, like most of South Africa has been. And again, a lot of the creativity doesn't come from us. It's us responding to conversations which we see and are a part of all of the time. And the whole country holds its breath waiting for the next announcement. And there's only so long you can hold your breath for. And if it go, 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late is different to, certainly those initial announcements, which ran, an hour or two late. And what we're looking for, and I'll get to the agency network in a section, is where's the intersection of where does every South African have, where's their consensus, where's their unity? And every South African was like, okay, seriously, if it's 7 o'clock, then it means 7 o'clock, not necessarily 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So Rama Punctual was a way of us summarizing how everyone was feeling during those updates and those times. So it's not in any way meant to be shady or divisive or controversial or upsetting. And that certainly wasn't the reaction we got. It was overwhelmingly positive, which is what most good Nando's ads do, is they make people go, yeah, ain't that so? Like, you're right. You've said what I've been thinking and feeling all along.
I think that's your strength, and understanding that insight where you are. You're the echo chamber, really, of what we're all thinking. I'm not going to run through all of them, but I'm going to get through to which I think is your last one, which is a fellow South which again would be the president talking, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So there was. I think a lot of South Africans, and us included, when we were told the various milestones of lockdown, that come 17th of April we'll be reunited, and then that was extended to the 1st of May, and then the 1st of May was extended into these various lockdown levels and all the the complexities associated with that. So whilst we were waiting and preparing to reopen at least a substantial portion of our business, and a lot of South Africans were waiting, to re-greet us on the other side. When it was extended, there was a collective, not yet. So that's where the R came from. The fellow South Africans was, again, a meme which we saw all the time on the internet, which is, the opening lines of the presidential addresses were fellow South Africans, and the people had a lot of fun with that. So it was us also, I suppose, acknowledging the humor of people who've made a gag similar to ours.
Okay, and do I take it now it's stopped, or is it likely to continue because lockdown in some form is continued?
Well, we pivoted around a few things. So when we were allowed to trade delivery only, now I understand delivery is the smallest part of our business and the least profitable part of our business, and many South Africans just don't have the access or the facility, to be able to purchase it. So even though we could have opened, us and many other restaurant brands couldn't do that either. So we decided not to. But we saw on the news like all these long queues of everyday South Africans really battling for food. And we have food in our freezers and in our various restaurants. So we decided to cook all the food that we had that we prepared for a reopening, and serve those communities. And invited our frenemies, KFC and McDonald's, who then invited their frenemies to kind of also join us because they were similar position that they couldn't open as well. So we then spent a couple of weeks specifically campaigning around that, which was, we're going to feed as many people as we possibly can at a time when people most need it. So Lockdown Lingo took a bit of a backseat for that. We also are thrilled with the likes of the Solidarity Fund, which the president has mentioned many times in his speeches, and so wanted to kind of get behind, raise public awareness about the great work that they're doing. And so, we then, sold vouchers online, and then whatever the voucher value is, we gave 10 times that to the Solidarity Fund. So if you've got 100 Rand Nando's voucher, we give 1,000 Rand to the Solidarity Fund. And we've raised almost 500,000 Rand just by doing that. So people can, when the stores were able to reopen, you could use the voucher you already bought, and then we, taking care of the Solidarity Fund movement, who are far better positioned than we are to provide relief efforts.
And the agency that you alluded to, is it still MNC Sarchiable? Yeah.
Yes, okay. Yeah. So it's broad networks. MNC Sarchiable and VML are the two primary ones. With these kinds of ads, we don't have the luxury of spending a week crafting a brief and 2 weeks waiting for the first revert and then refining it. The brief is in the morning and we want something out by the evening. So literally anyone who has a good idea it can come from anywhere. So we have a WhatsApp group like everyone else does. And one day when I retire, I'll publish a book of all the ads we didn't make.
I'd love to see. I'd love to see all of those. Yeah. Okay. So it's as simple as that. Quick turnaround. So would you? I mean, I speak to you today, for example, on the 10th anniversary of the 2010 World Cup, and I have lots to say about it. And I've posted. I made you a video just now and a podcast as well. Now. We'd expect Nando to say something. Has it come out already, or should I look out for it just now?
It's an interesting brief. We'll definitely have a look. Again, a lot of what it comes from is we're inspired by the conversations which we hear. So if that's a real conversation we can meaningfully participate in, yeah, for sure.
Well, here's the one. I'll say it loud. I've tweeted that Simphiwe Shabalala scored the first goal of the World Cup, which was the opening goal of the World Cup, and it was the was the goal of the World Cup. And I just wish that he delivered that goal as the final goal of the World Cup. And maybe that's your Nando's punchline about, well, we do service delivery, something along that line.
Yeah, Simphiwe's also got a little bit lost. He's involved with some fish businesses.
Okay, so we'll move away. Yeah,
just need to keep an eye. I don't want to
just very quickly. I mean, if you can, before we wrap up, give us an idea of the responses you've had in terms of numbers of views. Anything you can share around those communications. Yeah.
So, like from a brand perspective, like an engagement rate. So the degree to which people respond, measurably to online. In South Africa, it's about 1% online. Now, Nando's, we're really lucky, and we've worked really hard to get that on average to about 3 or 4%. These lockdown lingo things we've done, as well as the frenemies campaign and the finger licking ain't so good anymore, campaign which we started lockdown with, have engagement rates north of 10%. So they are 3 times what is our benchmark, and they reach anywhere between sort of 1 and 3 million people within a matter of hours. So there's a real, from a marketing perspective, a media perspective, there's a real efficiency which comes as a result of staying engaged with your community, caring about the things that they care about, and sharing the burdens with them as well as the lighter moments. Which means that when we do have bigger media investments, we don't have to put as much, firepower behind it to get the message out there, because these are ads that people want to see, they want to hear, they want to laugh, they want to smile, they want to feel, that was a bit close to the bone, because that's what we feel. And so we're going to continue doing that.
Okay, so the word frenemies sticks out. So who said it's a real marketing war? It's a bit of a friendly marketing war of sorts, right? Doug Place, great chatting to you. I'll look out for what's coming up next with Nando's.